Yes, let's show the presentation. So I will talk about the large infrastructure project of the Oosterweel link. It's a large infrastructure project that has brought already the present planning approaches to their knees in the encounter with complexity, or maybe to reality, because they underestimate the complex level of reality. And then I'm talking about who is breaking the impasse situation. So it's part of my PhD research on the broader governance of the sustainable mobility transition. So it's partly framed within that frame. Many of today's infrastructure projects experience some severe challenges regarding budget overruns, delays, opposition from external actors, making the project sometimes even strand or become long-lasting, like the Oosterweel link. And while scientific literature, progress report, even public press coverage tend to focus on the financial and the technological aspects, as you can see, as you could not see, but as you can read in the literature, which proves the technocratic large infrastructure approach that still prevails in these planning. In-depth research in practice, so the figure, the table, shows that from practitioners, if they are asked about complexity in large infrastructure projects, it's the research of Hertog and Westerveld, they experience the social and the organizational aspects as much more prominent if they're specifically asked about which kind of complexity is most prominent in the whole process. So it's kind of a mismatch, and it's showing that complexity causes still an error in the present planning approaches, because there's a focus on the financial and technical aspect still, while there's another focus or another experience in reality. So this brings me to my research question: what can a complexity embracing mobility planning approach look like then, and who takes the lead in this kind of new planning approach? What does it mean to embrace complexity? And I see complexity perspective as a meta perspective, because I was a little bit, because of the debate yesterday. So to position myself here, to zoom out and see mobility governance as much more than just the infrastructural or the technological field. It's not just a technocratic approach. And as mobility seems not to be heading that much towards a sustainable one, at least if you focus on the large infrastructure projects, you can as well use or adopt a new perspective, and I chose the complexity perspective, in which the focus is much more on throughput, on an inclusive process, on dynamic tailor-made solutions, and in which opportunities are sought in crossovers with other policy fields. So while you see that the present story or the present large infrastructure processes are focused on input-output, like very linear development, it's internally elaborated, so it's very exclusive to some people. It's the standard formulas instead of tailor-made solutions, or it looks like more standardized formulas, and it's still dealt with within the field of infrastructure and public works. So, fortunately for me, Hertog and Westerveld, which I took the picture of, have already played with complexity in large infrastructure projects for me. So I strongly rely on their dynamic management, and it's the management in a broader sense than just the management of the confusion situation yesterday. So in which the 5 X factors I mentioned there are part of the dynamic management situation. So it means like looking for a higher order of cooperation, for win-wins, project champions, reaching the competent people that make the difference and get them into the process. It's also a situation where the capability is found to have unique management solutions, and of course it's using the windows of opportunities to get them realized. So I wanted to test this on the case of the Oosterweel process, and therefore we wanted to test the co-evolutionary process, if actors could really find themselves in this perspective. And we organized a small roundtable discussion with some of the key stakeholders in the story. So only a limited number of actors, because only we wanted to talk them that they could talk very privately in a closed setting, I would say, and that they could listen still to each other. So we proposed them the dynamic management approach, and also asked them to identify click moments or moments of co-evolution, but they called it click moments in the discussion. So the moments that were decisive for the course of the project and in which they were converging or diverging. And they were asked about, also more in general, the key challenges for planning strategies that they have come across in the process. So we had one of the Port of Antwerp, we had several from various administrations, and we had one of the project management team, the BAM, and then we had on the opposite opposite camp, the citizen movements, and so we asked them for these co-evolutionary click moments of divergence and convergence. But first, maybe the project in a nutshell. The Oosterweel story already started in 1995, when a mobility vision was to be made for the Antwerp region, which you can see on the picture. The solution back then was to complete the inner ring road, so the smallest ring road, which was then already very congested, and the solution would be to complete it with an extra crossing over the river Scheldt. As you can see, also the air quality is very bad, and the situation has only worsened. So something must be done, but one is still not agreeing on what has to be done. So that's why it's a very interesting case. Then I made this. There are some small replacements, but then I made this scheme of the Oosterweel link process over the years. It's focused on the various streams, the political, the project management company, and the opposition groups in the lower part of the picture. And also I focused on their interrelations, and based on the defined click moments of the roundtable, by the roundtable participants, we could divide the project process into 5 rounds, which I will quickly guide you through. I have no time to go very much in detail. So in the first round, the project started as an architectural landmark project to complete the inner ring roads, and it was seen as the crown jewel of the master plan, with a combination of a tunnel and a double-deck flyover, as you can see in the middle, in the lower picture. But soon there was a choice on the exact location or route after a first study. But the elaboration was very much shielded technocratically, and soon trust issues came up in Parliament. They asked for monitoring, especially because the budget went up every time. But the actual click moment was the first time the model was actually shown, so people were interested about everything that was being talked about, but they never saw the model. So, and that moment that the model was shown, there was a first opposition group that came into the debate and presenting its own alternative, because, as you can see, the flyover construction is very close to the city, and they said, oh no, that's not quite a quality of life, that's not livable, we have to move it much further from the city. So they, that was the beginning of the second round, a round of divergence. In the second round, a new civil movement, Ademloos, came in, which translates to breathless in English. They put air quality on the agenda, and together with the other citizen movement, they could enforce they launched petitions, and they could enforce a referendum that voted against the flyover construction. So soon the management company just replaces by a tunnel on the same spot. And as a click moment, they defined a moment that a new study of alternatives, taking into account also the alternative of the citizen movements, much further from the city. At that moment that they presented the results, and they presented the results, there was no specific route excelling every measured parameter. So they said, let us elaborate a new route option, a new alternative that was close to what the citizen movements proposed. And so the consultants offered that, and they had to carry out it because it was commissioned by the government. But at the same time, the government said, oh, but the management company should just launch the building permit, should just finalize it. So it seemed a moment of convergence, taking into account all the alternatives again. But actually, it was also a bit a moment of divergence again. So it was an ambiguous click moment. Then the round 3 was a moment of convergence again. In the third round, there was the elaborated alternative that was presented, that closely connected to what the citizen movement proposed. And there was the suspension of the spatial implementation plan because the procedures were not redone to replace the flyover to the tunnel version. So they bought some time, and it was a moment of hope again for the citizen movements. So then in the next round, there came in another citizen movement, this time a bit more lively, a bit more, they made a real brand of their campaign, and they put the capping idea of the ring road on the public agenda. And they got it on the project agenda, and they even got themselves away into the decision-making process because they had so much support base, they were so lively in the campaign that they could prompt the government to have like this capping intendant, a person who should harmonize the idea of the successful ringlet with a broad support base with the not that much supported project that was decided by the project company. So the click moment that brought about the next round were quite contradictory. Also the Oosterweel project. So on the 14th of February, the government decided to go with the initial plans and stick to that route. But at the other hand, they appointed the intendant to look for ways to embrace the ideas of the opposing citizen movements. So that was also a bit an ambiguous click moment. And then the final round. It was a moment, a round of conversion again. In the fifth round, you have the intensive super workshop trajectories by the intendant. That's also what Luc was talking about yesterday. So they all collaborated with each other. They actually got away from the technical aspects of the routes, and they got to values and speaking with each other. And then they signed the ambition paper, like that they could agree on which they saw possibly for the capping of the ring road. It was a compromise, it was agreed upon by all actors. And later on, they also talked about the alternatives, the real route options. And they signed the future covenant, or the future alliance. So it was also about the actual mobility system then. So that was a moment of convergence again. And now we only have to wait until we see what's coming out of it. So we also asked the general things, so they could agree on the co-creational, the inclusive process and building on collective expertise, the transparent issues. We asked the administrations but what is government doing already now? So I have to move quickly. So the government is already working with complexity since the decree on complex projects. It came into being in March 2015. It was to integrate and streamline It was conceived to balance between interaction and control more, whereas the regular procedure focuses more on control, like fixed agreements and stuff. The procedure now has 3 phases, but it is only after the first phase, and thus within the start decision document that one has to decide which of the procedures, the old one or the complex one, to follow. And in the end, it seems only about half of the project that initially think about maybe doing it end up with this new framework. So it might be a sign that it's not flexible enough, that it's not interactive enough, that they cannot see the pros for it. So the experts, that's also why it was met with a lot of skepticism, that it was not flexible enough, that it was too bureaucratically initiated. But we have to wait until the first projects actually reach the final project decision phase before we can actually evaluate. And then I think of what I told you, you can see that the intendant is really doing what dynamic management is about. He really aligned all the actors. He broadened also his mandate. He just started to speak of capping and the livability of the ring roads. And then he could broaden his mandate, he could gain the trust to also talk about the mobility system. He also could avoid the technical debate in the beginning, while, of course, he ended up within it. But he brought, in my view, he brought the co-evolutionary processes back on track. For the moment, he still is, but we will see what the negotiations, because they're still busy. The first agreement is signed, but we will not know what will come out of it. But then my question is it always necessary to have this intendant figure, this mediator? So, coming back to my research questions, I think, what can a complexity embracing mobility planning approach look like? I think there are already many answers, but I think they are not implemented or put into a legal framework or that is suitable for us. And I think the position of an intendant, an external one, is okay in deadlock situations, but I'm not sure if it's always necessary to have such an external person solving it all. So that's quite it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Marie.
Yes. Thank you so much. First of all, it was a relief to know that it's not only in Israel that projects are being dragged for this. Now, seriously, when I read your paper, it somehow took me away from questions that you are posing here to another point of view. And the way I see it, we are dealing with an extremely complex situation. And like, we have small avalanches, and this one is a really big one. And although small avalanches doesn't mean that we have a linear solutions, when we have a big one, then we can feel the full extent of complexity. And to my view, we are looking, this big avalanche is in a way a series of bifurcations, like as if there are many orders competing to take over the system, and one order will eventually be realized when the full, project will be decided and they will actually build it. Because unlike the project that Sharon's students were dealing with, this project must be finalized. It cannot be only, live and be bifurcated forever. It must be some end to it. And it reminds me of research I once did about discourse analysis. So I was listening to planners for, trying to find a solution for some 8 months. And they had one solution, and finally something came out, and another solution, and another solution, and finally they came up with a final solution. And it was a closed company, a closed group of planners. And here we're talking about an open group of planners, because here we have the protagonists, and we have the municipality, and we have the budget, and we have a lot of considerations. So bifurcation is much more complex. And I know that there is a feeling that maybe if we understand complexity, we can make this process run much more smoothly and come to an end in a short while. But I truly not believe that it is possible. I think that when we are in this process, we're trapped in it, and we cannot, by understanding that we're in a complex system, we cannot get out of it and say, okay, let's do it faster and finalize it in I don't know, 8 months instead of, I don't know, 10 years. I don't think it's possible, and I think that this bifurcation is in a way, and this competition between orders is in a way necessary, you know, to finalize the best, not always the best. I mean, it could be that after it is finalized, someone will come with a better idea, we should have done this or that. This is the nature of complex system. You cannot escape it in a way. This is the way I see it. So maybe I will open this question to everybody. Do you think that by finalizing by pointing at the protagonist and by understanding that it is a complex system, we can make it easier for us to make a decision? Because I naturally totally don't believe this is possible. Sorry.
Are you saying that you don't believe in the protagonist solving it, or because
No,
the way I see it is that the protagonist brings the dialogue back in, I would say, because the project, and also there's something I said it or I showed it. There's something must be done. Really, Antwerp citizens are waiting for some solutions, and actually everyone in Flanders, there has to be done something. But what? And then if people don't speak, nothing can be done.
I agree, they must speak. We must have this process open. We must have the people, we must set an arena. Nevertheless, things take their time, and I don't think that you can control complexity by offering this arena or by saying, let's talk about it and let's come to a solution until this or until that. It's complex. It must operate the way it operates.
The question is what you're doing helping you to make progress? Period. Whatever you're doing. And whether you're starting in this closed group, that question generates a different answer. These 5 planners in their rooms that you listened to for 8 months, they were stuck probably because someone didn't ask the right question, or they got out of bed ill-tempered, or whatever happened there. So whatever helped them to make progress there, okay, good question. Here it's a different question. And the research that you're doing is, can we learn something about how to be more, well, one mechanistic way of looking at it is that, well, can we learn something from it so in advance we can predict what will help us make progress? But these are things where you have to test stuff. Now there comes a difficulty. You can test something in a conversation. It's simply asking a question and see what the result is. But this is different. At the point you have to start building something, so you need something else. And the question then becomes like, why do you want to predict what we need in order to make progress? Why not keep asking it all the time? Because once you stop asking it, you blind yourself. And you use blind force. That's exactly, I mean, if you look through all the projects and presentations, that's exactly what's the big red thread is like, when you use blind force, you can fix some things, but Philippe de Rink also said it's simple.
I just have to answer this. I know that you expect when you open it, you say everything is open, it will work better, but then I say something is invented outside the system, a new technology, and a new point of view, and someone did something in a different country and it is coming. So you will never really be able to open it to all possible future abilities, and when something is coming in, then again the whole system is troubled and you cannot make a decision. Again, you have to take the time. So
So I'm not sure whether I'm suggesting that that will be the case. I think the question or the puzzle you're raising is clear. Angela, you would like to respond?
It might be an issue of languaging, and I wondered, you know, the language, I didn't know that word intended. Don't know that word. And also, I don't know, it seems to me that someone has come in and facilitated some shift and some change to bring people back to a path where some sort of solution has come about, or is coming about.
Yeah, he actually made people work together instead of just opposing one another.
Yes, that's right. So I wouldn't. I think it's just it's a slight reframe. I think that's all. It's not about the intended solved problems.
No.
He facilitated some outcomes and he or she brought people back together. And the fact that they're an external person, I think there was a question, you know, should it always be necessary? My sense is, my intuition is, that in these sorts of big, complex, long-standing issues, that you actually need an external person because they're not invested.
Yes.
They have no interest apart from coming to bringing people to some solution. So I think the short answer to your second question up there is yes, necessary. Thoughts?
One final question. Yeah.
It's very good to have such a very concrete and very real subject, a case that we can fight with or deal with or work with. The question of complexity as a model of thought, trying to understand it, may also imply the extent of complexity and whether we can integrate all actors in the field of dynamics. And my intuition is that this is a very big budget project. So I'm wondering whether we can see all the influences in the scheme. I may have misunderstood, but I think part of your history says there was an initiative, there was a contestation, and then there was a dynamic being built up. But in the meantime, BAM was developing its permit nonetheless. And even further on, government said, go on with Plan A. So there is this thing about hidden agendas, trying to be collaborative, but I think sometimes things just don't appear. And we're luring ourselves into believing we can manage complexity, and in fact we're not. So it's maybe a very delicate point, but maybe something that we should be aware of.
Yes. Yeah, politics plays a big role, I think.
At least there are now several alternatives from the beginning. At least there are now 5 different arenas working at the same time. At least there are now different discussions about it. And at least we have now a discussion in political right, which is completely different than the first idea of the bottom.
At least we have a history of urban planning projects in Flanders, a project where we can show that this can happen. We have a precedent.
Some progress has been made. That's clear. Thank you so much, Susan.